In the winter of 1882, Isabella Ruiz, 17, discovered that her life was no longer hers to shape. Abandoned amid the biting cold of the Rocky Mountains, the wind howled like the relentless ghosts of her past as she cradled her newborn Daniel against her chest. The frigid air clung to her skin, seeping through her threadbare clothing. Each gust of wind stung her exposed flesh, an unceasing reminder of her family's shame that had thrust her into this unforgiving wilderness. Fate decreed less than mere survival. The desperation in her heart collided violently with the harsh reality of her surroundings. Her family had sent her away like an unwanted shadow, a scarlet letter to bear alone, labeled as a reminder of her unplanned pregnancy. "You are a disgrace," their voices rang sharply in her mind, echoes of every hurtful word replaying like a broken record and amplifying the isolation that enveloped her. Alone among the towering pines and jagged cliffs, she felt that cold creep deeper into her bones, weighted down with countless regrets and uncertainties. As she rocked her baby, the rhythmic motion provided small comfort against the storm raging within her. Daniel's soft whimpers broke the silence, a sweet reminder of life amid despair. She swayed gently, whispering soothing words, though they felt like hollow echoes among the frostbitten peaks. "It'll be okay, my little angel," she murmured, fighting against the suffocating despair that threatened to consume her. Each breath she took mingled with the acrid smell of damp earth, and she winced, clutching him tighter as she resisted the bitter taste of loneliness threatening to choke her. Just as the darkness of hopelessness threatened to swallow her whole, a solitary figure emerged on the horizon, contrasting sharply against the stark white landscape. He approached slowly, a weathered man with deep-set eyes, shadowed by the burdens of a rugged past. Mateo Sanchez, a mountain man of 40, moved with a grace that spoke of quiet strength, his worn expression revealing a heart encapsulated in a glacier of grief. He had come to these mountains to escape the pain of losing his beloved wife to a slow illness, retreating into the silence of isolation where only the call of the wind echoed the melody of sorrow he could not shake. When he reached her, the solemnity of his presence offered a flicker of hope amidst the despair. "Come, you'll be safe here," he said softly, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the chilled air, barely reaching her ears. Though Isabella hesitated, fear battling against the desperate need for shelter, Mateo's promise of safety was a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. She stepped closer, drawn by an instinct deeper than fear, a sudden spark of trust igniting as she took in the intensity of his gaze. As they entered his secluded cabin, a wave of warmth rolled over them like a cocoon, an unexpected refuge where the outside world faded into whispers of wind. Flickering shadows danced across the walls, the scent of burning wood enveloping them in a gentle embrace. Despite the safety offered by the structure, unease settled in her stomach. She was cautious of this stoic stranger. Mateo's rugged demeanor stirred conflicting emotions within her, an unsettling mixture of fear and fragile hope, as she cautiously lowered herself onto a simple wooden chair, cradling Daniel closer, seeking reassurance in his innocent presence. Days quickly folded into weeks, each moment allowing Isabella to witness the quiet gentleness of the mountain man. He tended to her needs, offered her meals, and patiently instructed her on the art of gathering wood. Each lesson was imbued with a patient grace that unveiled a side of Mateo beyond the rough exterior. Under his careful guidance, Isabella began to take ownership of her surroundings, a first step towards reclaiming her identity. She learned to navigate the unfamiliar territory of responsibility, not just as a mother, but a true participant in forging their shared survival. Gone was the carefree girl she once had been. Her innocence had given way to fierce, unyielding dedication to this new life. The burden of shame began to shift, metamorphosing into stability as she worked alongside Mateo. Their connection deepened with every moment spent together. They shared stories by the firelight, each revelation strengthening the fragile bonds that tied them. While she spoke of the family that had turned its back on her, he opened up about the arc of his loss, how it had hollowed him out and left him searching for peace amidst the wildness of the mountains. Yet, just as the warmth of their bond flourished, shadows lurked at the edges of their newfound sanctuary, whispering of turmoil left behind. Isabella had fled her family's contempt, but they hadn't forgotten her. Soon, a search party descended upon her sanctuary, the sound of their voices resonating through the wilderness like a death knell. "Isabella, come home. You're making a mistake living with this man. He can't give you what we can. The bitter words of her mother pierced through the thin veil of peace that cloaked her life with Matteo. Memories of her family's indifference, ridicule, and heavy expectations flooded back, but this time their power over her faltered. Instead, she found herself drawing strength from the resilience she had cultivated, alongside the man who stood beside her now. Matteo's protective instincts surged, consuming him with a fierce determination. He stood firm against the tide of expectations crashing in around them, eyes narrowing as he regarded Isabella's family. "Isabella," he urged gently, his tone commanding yet calm, "you choose your own path." In that moment, their connection solidified through unspoken understanding, drawing strength from each other's scars and past pains that only they could truly understand. Confronted with the ultimatum presented by those who once deemed her unworthy, Isabella felt that familiar rush of fear clawing at her insides, the echoes of her past stirring like a restless storm. But countering that fear was the resurgence of newfound strength blossoming within her, clarity sharpening her vision. The line was drawn. She could feel the distinction forming between who others believed her to be and who she could finally embrace, as a fierce mother and a woman capable of standing in her truth. "I've made my choice," she declared, her voice unwavering, firm against the tremor of doubt. No longer an echo of fear, she had become a symbol of defiance, pride swelling in her chest. Matteo stood tall and proud beside her, a steadfast ally, his presence imbued with dark kindness and resolve as the tempest raged around them. As the mountains loomed above them, silent witnesses to their unity, the weight of the past dissipated, swallowed up by the vast sky. The night found them under a blanket of stars, and in that delicate moment suspended between fear and promise, Matteo turned to her, eyes gleaming with a mix of reverence and hope. "We create our own family," he vowed, their fingers interlacing as they exchanged promises beneath the expansive heavens. From that moment forward, amidst the wild beauty that surrounded them, Isabella learned that true family transcended mere blood. It was rooted in trust, strength, and love, elements forged and solidified in shared trials, in each day spent nurturing their bond. With Matteo by her side, she had not just found safety, but a partner with whom she could forge a life anew, a partnership built on understanding and the unwavering commitment to embrace whatever the future might bring. Their lives would continue to play out against the backdrop of rugged beauty, the mountains echoing their journey from desperation to hope, from pain to healing. True worth lay far beyond societal expectations. It resided within the depths of their hearts, nurtured by the bonds they formed, redefining what it meant to be a family together. The warmth that thrummed around them would serve as the foundation for the life they were destined to carve out of stone, embracing each moment and the lessons whispered softly through the towering pines as they welcomed their second child into the world. As dawn broke over the rugged peaks, the first rays of sunlight sliced through the darkness, illuminating the frost that clung to the world outside. Isabella stood at the cabin's window, cradling her newborn son, Daniel, against her chest. The morning light danced across the snow-dusted pines, casting a soft glow that filled her heart with warmth. She watched as the wilderness awakened, the vibrant beauty stirring within her, a deep sense of gratitude and hope. Matteo entered quietly, a steaming cup of herb-infused tea in hand, the wood smoke from the fireplace curling around him like an embrace. He offered the cup to Isabella, his eyes sparkling with a tenderness that had become familiar in their shared silence. "Good morning," he said, his voice rough yet soothing, a steady anchor amidst the world's uncertainties. "Good morning," she replied, taking the cup with trembling hands. The warmth spread through her palms, and she inhaled the earthy aroma. "Thank you." The plates of their lives were gradually shifting, and each exchanged glance between them solidified the bond they were nurturing. Simple moments like this were essential, grounding them in the midst of change. With each passing day, her strength burgeoned. The burden of shame from her family had transformed into fierce determination to forge a better life for her son. Matteo had become not just a protector, but also a steady source of encouragement. Guiding her through the intricacies of survival in the wilderness, he patiently taught her how to gather wood from the nearby forest, how to stoke the fire for warmth, and how to cook over the flames, always respecting her autonomy with gentle encouragement. "We've got work to do today," he declared, amusement flickering in his eyes. "The woodpile won't chop itself." She chuckled softly, energized by his calm demeanor. "Let's see who can chop more wood today," she challenged playfully, the competitive spirit igniting a joy within her that had long been muted. Matteo raised an eyebrow, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. "I'm not sure you're ready for that challenge." "No? Let's test it then." The morning found Isabella and Matteo working side by side. She took to the axe with determination, the weight of the handle grounding her in the present. Each swing brought a measure of satisfaction as the wood splintered and cracked under her effort. Matteo stood nearby, watching with an undeniable sense of pride, his heart swelling at her tenacity. "You're stronger than you think," he called, admiration layering his words as he split a larger log. "That's easy for you to say," she replied, wiping the sweat from her brow. "You've been managing this place alone for years." "Aye, but I never had anyone like you to share it with." His voice was laced with sincerity. A silence settled, comfortable yet charged, a tension that had begun to shift from uncertainty to an unspoken intimacy. As their eyes met, there was an unacknowledged understanding that lay between them, a connection slowly blossoming amidst the labor. Later that evening, as they sat side by the fire, the flames casting flickering shadows against the log walls of the cabin, they exchanged stories. Isabella shared the memories of her family with a bittersweet fondness, recounting how laughter and chaos had once filled her home. Yet there was a deep sense of loss imbued in her words, each recollection unraveling the pain that had driven her to this mountain refuge. Matteo listened intently, revealing glimpses of himself in return. "My wife was different," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, as if fearing the shadows would carry his pain away. "She was strong, full of life, until illness took her from me." Each word was a meticulously carved confession, revealing a vulnerability he rarely showed. "I'm sorry," Isabella said softly, her heart aching for the man beside her, whose own scars mirrored her own. "I wish you didn't have to endure that pain." A silence stretched, heavy with shared grief. "We can choose to move forward, Isabella. We can begin to build again. We have a chance here." Matteo's gaze was steady, his resolve contagious. "But will our pasts ever let us go?" she ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes we need to confront them, not just reject them." There was a weight to his words, a truth that resonated. The mountains have their own way of healing. Isabella nodded slightly, feeling the truth of his words wrapping around her like a blanket, bringing comfort and strength. She sensed the distance between them lessen, their shared experiences intertwining their hearts in a tapestry of understanding. As weeks melted into a rhythm, Isabella began to blossom within this new existence. She learned to feed the animals that roamed their homestead, to forage for edible plants through the underbrush. Matteo taught her the secrets of the land, where the best berries grew, how to identify tracks in the snow, and how to mend the delicate balance of nature. Under his patient guidance, she began to reclaim her own sense of worth. But the outside world was never far away, and the whisper of those they had left behind grew louder. A bitter chill set in as the leaves turned crimson and gold, and a reminder of her past clung to her like mist on the mountain air, the haunting spectre of her family. Isabella found herself tormented by dreams of loneliness, waking in the dead of night with visions of her mother's scornful gaze. One evening, as they prepared for bed, she dared to voice the uncertainty that had kept her awake. "Matteo," she began hesitantly, "what if they come looking for me? What if they find us?" He turned to her, the strength of his gaze soothing the tremor in her heart. "If they do, we'll face it together. You're not alone anymore. What makes you so sure we can withstand whatever they throw at us?" she challenged, a spark of defiance lighting her features. "Because we've built something here that's worth fighting for. Remember, choosing your path means also willing to protect it with all you have, and I'll be at your side, ready to fight." The mountains bore witness to their unity, and in the starlit silence, Isabella felt a journey unfold within her, a transformation unfolding that dug deeper roots than she'd ever anticipated. Days turned into cool autumn nights, and the bond between them solidified with each passing moment. As they navigated the wild beauty together, each task shared forged a little more of their own family narrative. With the seasons changing, life within the cabin bloomed, yet so did Isabella's trepidation. When autumn gave way to winter, the storm clouds of her past loomed heavy on the horizon. It was a cold evening, the moon's reflection shimmering on a fresh blanket of snow when they first heard the distant sound, a rhythmic beat of horses' hooves breaking the stillness of their solitude. Isabella's heart raced as the reality hit her like a bitter wind. "Matteo," she called, dread curling within her. They're here. My family is coming. Matteo remained calm, the quiet strength in him palpable. Stay here with Daniel. I'll go look. We will not let them take you away. But they're my family. What if they will not listen? What if they want to take him from me? Panic surged, leaving her breathless as she clutched her son tightly. We will make them understand, he assured her, his eyes never wavering. Whatever happens, you have a choice and I will stand with you. Isabella felt the ground beneath her shift. The love they had nurtured had fortified her spirit, but now the looming threat of her past approached with the heavy weight of judgment and fear. As Matteo strode toward the door, she found herself faced with an undeniable truth. She had built a life here, woven together by love and resilience, and she would not cower before the shadows of her past. Let's do this together, she whispered, a new wave of clarity washing over her. I choose to stand by your side. With the stakes rising, Isabella understood now that the mountains were more than a backdrop. They were a sanctuary where they would fight for their family. As Matteo opened the door to the darkness, she felt the cold air rush in, but within her a flicker of courage began to blaze, serving as a beacon in the storm. Together they would face whatever lay ahead. The weight of the past would hold no power here, for the true essence of family, love, trust, and commitment would serve as their shield against the confines of expectation. Embracing the responsibility of their journey, they prepared to rewrite the narrative that had once tried to bind them. No longer were they solitary figures wandering through the wilderness. They were a coalition forged by trials, standing firm in the face of the storm, united by the unwavering bond of love that neither time nor circumstance could sever. The mountains would hear their vows. The wilderness would bear witness to their transformation. And at the heart of it all, Isabella embraced the truth she had long sought, the power to claim her story, the strength to chart her destiny. And in the quiet moments that followed, the stars bore witness to the life they would continue to build together. The morning sun rose slowly over the vast expanse of mountains, their solid forms bathed in golden light, casting shadows that danced across the forest floor. The air was crisp, and Isabella breathed deeply, feeling invigorated yet nervous as she stood at the edge of their homestead. With every passing day, she felt more embedded in this wilderness, but the whispers of her family's return gnawed at the corners of her mind. Matteo came up beside her, his presence a steady anchor in the swirling thoughts that clouded her mind. "You ready for the day?" he asked, his tone light, but his eyes held a promise of strength and support. "Yeah, I think so." She offered him a tentative smile, aware of the work that lay ahead, both physically intending to the homestead and emotionally as they prepared to confront the possibilities unspooling from the recent encounter with her family. As they set to their morning chores, feeding the animals, gathering firewood, and tending to the small patch of vegetables they had planted, Isabella could not shake the feeling that this day would be pivotal. There was an air of anticipation, thick with the possibility of change. Days turned into weeks in a beautiful blur of labor and connection, and the rhythm of their life settled into a comforting routine. Matteo taught Isabella new skills, revealing the intricate nuances of survival in the mountains. He guided her in tracking wildlife, teaching her how to identify the various plants that grew native to their territory, edible roots and leaves, medicinal herbs and fragrant flowers that bloomed amidst the rocks. One crisp autumn afternoon, they ventured deeper into the woods than ever before, wildflowers still stubbornly clinging to life amid trails carpeted in red and gold leaves. The sun filtered through the trees, creating a mosaic of light and shadow that enveloped them. After a long trek, they came upon a clearing. The breathtaking view presented to them revealed rolling hills, blanketed in forest, a soft caress of wind brushing against his sun-kissed skin. Isabella drew in a deep breath, filled with a sense of belonging that had eluded her for so long. "I used to think I could never fit into nature," she confessed, her voice a gentle whisper as she met Matteo's gaze. "But now, it feels like home." Matteo nodded, stepping closer to her side. "It's ours," he said, backing up his words with a smile that reached his eyes. "Every detail, every element. It belongs to us. We can shape it together." As they spent the day exploring, their laughter echoed through the trees, forging an even stronger connection between them, a fragile thread that only grew with shared experiences and moments of vulnerability. The turn of the seasons brought with it a fresh slate, and winter arrived with a sharp bite, blanketing the mountains in thick snow. Together they learned the art of sledding through the drifts, building snow forts and celebrating the holidays in ways that had previously felt unreachable. Their physical bond began to mirror the emotional depth they had forged, an endless sea of laughter accompanied by a gentle warmth that filled the space between them. Despite the joy blossoming in their hearts, Isabella's worries about her family lingered, their shadow dangling over each moment of happiness. She felt the encroaching anxiety. What if they returned when they were least prepared? What if they tried to take her son away? Days passed, and the freedom they had found felt fragile, almost precarious. One particularly frigid evening, as they settled in next to the fire, the crackle of the flames the only sound in the comforting chaos of their lives, Isabella turned to Matteo. "Do you ever think about them? It's hard not to. They're a part of your story, right?" Matteo stirred the pot hanging over the flame, the rich aromas wafting through the air like a tantalizing tether between the flavors of the past and the present. She hesitated, grappling with the sudden cascade of emotions. "I wish they would understand that I'm happy here, that I've chosen a different life, but they still hold on to their beliefs about me." "Maybe they'll come to see that with time," he replied, glancing over with an encouraging smile. "Your journey is powerful, Isabella. It's never too late for them to realize the beauty of your choice." "It may be too late for them to have a place in my life," she confessed, the heaviness in her heart palpable. "But I want them to understand, to know how far I've come. I will stand with you no matter what," Matteo promised, and the sincerity of his words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. The dark of winter persisted, shadows crawling against the walls of their home. Yet in the frost-laden expanse outside, Isabella felt a tiny flicker of something more, a shifting sense of self that grew bolder with each step she took in this harsh landscape. They worked side by side, toiling through the snow, gathering food from the small pantry they had stocked with care, each bite an offering of their hard-won victories. The tide of winter brought with it new challenges. Snowstorms blistered across the land, forcing them to stay within the warmth of the cabin for days at a time. It was during these long stretches that Isabella and Matteo discovered the depths of their compatibility. They shared stories and dreams while huddled close together under blankets. The distance between them transformed into an unbreakable bond. They created new traditions. Nights of storytelling by the fire became a ritual, as did morning tea, crafted from the herbs Matteo had taught her to gather. One night, nestled close under thick blankets, Matteo shared tales of his past, of his wife and their shared dreams. "We had talked about building a family," he admitted softly. "But fate took her too soon." The sorrow in his voice was heavy, yet she felt his warmth rise, connecting them on an intimate level. "I can't help but feel that this is where I'm meant to be," he continued, glancing deeply into her eyes. "With you, with Daniel. You both make this life worth fighting for." Isabella's heart soared, and she felt a well of emotions surfacing within her. "I never thought I could be someone's anchor after everything I endured. It feels so surreal to know that I have the ability to carve my own path." And as they sat together, a warmth ignited within her, a determination to embrace their future. She believed what Matteo had said about their life being full of possibilities, that it could blossom despite the chilling winds that howled outside their cabin. Weeks passed, and spring's arrival brought with it a revitalizing energy. As the world began to awaken, with wildflowers dotted across the once white landscape, Isabella felt the weight of her past, lifting in a way that had remained elusive for so long. This was her moment of renewal, her opportunity to redefine family, joy, and companionship. But as life blossomed, whispers of her family still lingered in the corners of her mind. This shift laid the groundwork for a reckoning she knew was inevitable. While she had found solace and strength with Matteo, the shadows of her past would not easily disperse. As the days turned golden and long, Isabella grew bolder in her acts of defiance, shedding the last remnants of fear. One early morning, with the sun rising over the mountains, she resolved to venture into town, a decision that thrilled yet terrified her. She spoke to Matteo, the sun spilling warmth across her shoulders as she detailed her plans with nervous excitement. "I need to see the world outside our sanctuary and face my fears. I want to try to invite understanding." "I'll go with you," Matteo insisted, a protective edge in his tone. "No, I have to do this alone. I'll need to stand firm in my choice," she replied, her voice steady with conviction. After a washed-out winter, her vibrant spirit emerged, embedded with the pieces she had sewn into existence. She dressed in her warmest coat, fastening the buttons with an inhalation of courage, her heart thrumming in her chest. The house was quiet, Daniel safely asleep in his crib, and she wanted to ensure this was a path she could navigate. Mateo's eyes softened. "Just take care of yourself. I'll be waiting right here," he promised, kissing her forehead. The tender gesture ignited a moment of shared warmth, grounding her resolve. The town awaited her, a foreign land tangled in memories, faces lined with judgment and worry. Isabella stepped into the new day, determination swirling around her as she made her way toward the bustling marketplace, cold air tingling against her skin. As she crossed the threshold into town, the sights and sounds engulfed her like a whirlwind. The marketplace was busy with townsfolk trading goods. A vibrant tapestry of life, laughter, and conversation whirled around her. Then she spotted a familiar figure, a woman who had once been her confidant, her childhood friend, standing at a stall adorned with colorful textiles. Isabella's heart raced as years of memories burdened her heart, conflicting emotions crackling beneath her skin. "Isabella!" the woman exclaimed, her eyes widening as they locked onto one another. "I thought we'd lost you." "I've been here," Isabella said softly, her voice steady. "I wanted to come back, to show that I can be happy." The woman moved to embrace her, but Isabella, rooted in her truth, stepped back. "I'm on a different path now." The bustling market around them felt alive with curiosity as men and women subtly glanced in their direction. "It's so good to see you," her friend whispered, her voice laced with concern as she searched Isabella's face for answers. "Your family." Isabella, the weight of fear dissipating with each word, stood firm. "Have made their choices too, but I'm choosing to stand on my own. I want them to understand that I'm happy, perhaps even thriving." As uncertainty flickered in her friend's eyes, Isabella felt a swell of determination. This was her moment, not just for herself, but for every moment she'd fought against the currents of judgment and fear. Yet doubts bubbled under her resolve. Could her words really resonate with those who had forsaken her? But before she could falter, she whispered, "Can you help reach out to them? I want them to see me, not just the past they've clung to." Her friend hesitated, glancing around as the townsfolk moved bustling around. "They miss you. They are grieving, Isabella. They want you back." With a mixture of fear and conviction coursing through her, she replied, "Then let them come here and witness the life I've built." The invitation hung between them like a fragile thread, a bridge between circumstances. As the day turned into night, Isabella walked home, her heart beating, echoing the pulse of change. She felt Mateo's presence as she opened the door. The warmth of their home enveloped her like a favorite blanket as shadows danced across familiar walls. "Did everything go as planned?" Mateo asked, concern evident in his gaze. The quiet intensity lurking beneath his confidence urged her forward. "I invited them." Isabella took a deep breath, feeling the warmth in Mateo's eyes. "I want them to see what we've built together." Mateo hesitated for a moment, a myriad of emotions flickering across his face. "And if they don't accept it? Then I will show them that love transcends their judgment, that we can build something remarkable, no matter the ownership of the past," she stated, her voice unwavering. Mateo stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The affection in his touch grounded them both, creating a small sanctuary from the chaos swirling outside. As spring dawned, fresh with promise, Isabella and Mateo prepared for what was to come. They held on to the bonds of family as they walked into the face of their shared future, one filled with hope and love that surged as they charted a new identity together. Isabella felt herself shedding the last remnants of fear, standing tall before the possibilities that awaited them. On this new path, the mountains bore witness to their endurance, the wilderness framed their love, and as a family, they would navigate through anything the world had to throw at them. The sun rose higher in the sky, casting a brilliance over the mountains that shook off the last vestiges of winter. The vibrant colors of spring infused life into the world, dazzling blossoms and sprouting green filling Isabella with renewed hope. Each bright petal seemed to echo the strength she had harnessed over the past months, growing alongside her connection with the wilderness and Mateo. As the days unfolded into weeks, Isabella busied herself preparing for the arrival of her family. The cabin was filled with the scent of freshly baked bread, and she hung wildflower bouquets throughout the space, little tokens of the home they had built. Each arrangement reflected their journey, blooming from the roots of struggle, thriving against all odds and declaring their happiness to the world. Mateo watched Isabella as she worked, a smile creeping onto his face. She moved with purpose, a lightness in her step that revealed her anticipation and anxiety. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, half joking but also serious. "I am," she replied, looking up with determination. "They need to see that this life is real, that we are happy and that I've finally found my place. Just know I'm here for you, whatever comes," he reassured her, his eyes glinting with affection and a hint of pride. It was moments like these that reminded her of their bond, a chemistry that had deepened with each trial, strengthening their resolve to face external pressures together. The day drew closer, and Isabella felt her heart racing as her family's arrival loomed on the horizon. Questions swirled inside. How would they react? Would they be accepting or confrontational? The complexity of feelings swirled within her, a storm brewing beneath the surface. Yet, she felt the certainty of Matteo standing beside her, the strength of the man she loved bolstering her raging uncertainties. Finally, the day arrived. The sky was painted with hues of gold and lavender as Isabella prepared herself, dressed in a flowing dress she had sewn with care, a blend of fabric and function, practical yet beautiful. She wanted her family to see the woman she had become, not just the girl left behind in the past. Matteo helped their son Daniel pull on a little vest made from scraps of fabric. Together, he and Isabella created a scene of familial unity, both determined to present a peaceful front, to absorb any negativity that might arise. As the sun began to set, the distant sound of hooves echoed over the terrain, sending a shiver of both excitement and fear through Isabella's body. "They're here," she breathed, her heart pounding in rhythm with the drums of her uncertainty. "Breathe," Matteo said gently. "I'll be right here." Gathering her thoughts, Isabella opened the door just as her family approached, their figures becoming sharper against the backdrop of nature. Her heart raced as she recognized familiar faces that held echoes of her childhood, the judgment and love entwined within each gaze that scrutinized everything she had become. "Isabella!" her mother called, stepping forward. A mix of relief and sorrow spread across her features, but it was swiftly shadowed by the weight of unspoken judgments. "Mom," Isabella replied, her voice steady despite the tempest within her. "Thank you for coming." Her father joined them, a furrow in his brow. "We're worried about you," he began, though his words were laced with a hint of fear. "You've been gone and we thought we'd lost you completely." "I'm not lost. I've created a life," Isabella stated firmly, forcing herself to hold her ground. "A happy life." The reaction was immediate. Her siblings shifted nervously. Tension crackled as they exchanged knowing glances. "You need to come home," her father insisted, the authority in his voice mingling with concern. "The mountains aren't a place to raise a child." Isabella took a deep breath, steadying herself against the tide of opposition. "Daniel is thriving here. Matteo and I have built our family together, one founded on love and respect. You should see for yourselves." "Love isn't enough to survive out here, Isabella," her mother interjected, worry creasing her expression. "You don't know the dangers." A surge of frustration rippled through her. "But I do, Mom. I've learned how to thrive through every season." She nodded toward Matteo beside her, determined to include him in their conversation. "This is Matteo. He's taught me how to respect this land, how to learn from it. Together we've carved out a home." Matteo took a step forward, mirroring her resolve, his presence solid and confident. "It's true. We're a family here, and we embrace this life, the challenges and the beauty. You'll find that we're very much alive." There was a beat of silence as her family took in Matteo's words, their faces a mixture of confusion and wariness. Her heart raced with every passing moment. Was this the moment they would truly see? "What about your future?" her father challenged. "What if something happens to him? What if you need us again?" "We're planning a future together," Isabella responded emphatically. "A different future, one that accepts all parts of who we are." The wind picked up, carrying with it the sounds of the mountains, a chorus of life against the encroaching threat of doubt. Isabella felt the urge to sweep her family into a warm embrace, to convey the love and joy they had forged, but she stood firm, unresolved to concede to the confines of their fears. "We just want to see you safe," her mother said softly, her vulnerability cutting through the tension, attempting to reach the daughter she had lost. Isabella felt the chasm between them begin to bridge. "I am safe, Mom. It's time for you to see that. This is my choice, and I own it." As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground, there was a growing urgency in the air. Words surged and danced like wildfire, and though the weight of trepidation hung around them, Isabella felt an undeniable pulse within. This was her moment. She gestured toward the cabin, inviting her family to see the life they had built. "You need to witness this. Step inside, share a meal with us. Allow me to show you how I've transformed." Her siblings exchanged glances, the hesitance woven into the fabric of their history, but her mother stepped forward, nodding slowly. "All right, let us see." As they entered the cabin, Isabella felt waves of tension shift, her heart beating with a blend of anxiety and hope. Inside, the warm light flickered against the walls, illuminating the carefully crafted moments of their lives. The aroma of baked bread created an inviting atmosphere, a stark contrast to the coldness of the world outside. They settled around the table, and as Isabella began serving, Matteo stepped in to provide context for their lives. "We've been methodically cultivating the land, learning its secrets," he shared, pride evident in his voice as he spoke of their improvements, the garden they had planted, the livestock they cared for. "There's a rhythm to it, a balance that we adapt to alongside nature." "Daniel is flourishing," Isabella added, heart swelling as she continued. "He's learning from both of us. Nature is his playground." Her family listened intently, curiosity beginning to sprout amidst the initial skepticism. The spirited conversations flowed as they spoke of victories and challenges, their voices rising and falling like the tide, layered with remnants of their pasts intertwined with the present. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a striking transition took place. Laughter rang out as her siblings shared stories of old times, and Isabella savored every moment, every smile, every glimmer of connection weaving through unfamiliar territory. Feeling emboldened, she turned to her parents. "I want you to be part of our lives. I want you to see me as I am now, not who you buried in the past." It was her mother who spoke next, her voice softening, evoking emotion. "We've missed so much of you. I didn't realize how much I longed to see you happy until I stood here, feeling this warmth." The words landed like sunlight breaking through a dark storm. "Can you understand?" Isabella asked gently, searching her mother's eyes. "This isn't just a choice, it's redefining who I am." Her mother nodded, the fight draining from her eyes, replaced by a spark of understanding. "I want to understand more, Isabella. You doing this took immense courage. I may not agree with everything, but I see you've created a place of love." Matteo caught Isabella's gaze, their silent agreement binding them more tightly together. Her father, who had been quieter during the evening, finally spoke. "Maybe this isn't so terrible after all," he said with a half-smile, breaking some of the tension that still hung heavy in the air. Isabella felt a smile tug at her lips, buoyed by their tentative acceptance, her heart swelling with a mixture of hope and gratitude. The shift in energy was palpable, tension melting like snow under the sun. As they shared the last of their meal, laughter punctured the quiet moments, ushering in a burgeoning sense of belonging and acceptance. The warmth in their hearts began fostering the reconnection between them, a blossoming reminder of the familial bonds that wanted to be reclaimed. After dinner, with the world outside cloaked in darkness, Isabella offered a tour of their home, inviting her family to see the heart of the life she had fashioned. "This is where Daniel sleeps," she shared, opening the door to his small room, filled with handmade toys and warmth. "And this is where Matteo and I dream of our future." The newfound acceptance seemed to flourish as they stepped through the thresholds, witnessing the love that existed, and with each turn, Isabella felt the frail threads binding the past and present grow stronger. As the evening drew late, her family prepared to leave. There was a tangible shift in the air, a heaviness lifted as goodbyes were exchanged, the promise of return flickering like the last remnants of light in the fading gloom. "Thank you for letting us see," her mother said, lingering just a moment longer before hugging Isabella tight. "You've built something beautiful. I do understand, at least a little bit more." Placing her hand on her mother's cheek, Isabella felt tears burning in her eyes. "You are welcome here any time, always," Matteo chimed in, warmth radiating as he stood beside Isabella, an unwavering presence. As her family took their leave, Isabella stood on the porch, watching their figures fade into the twilight, her emotions brimming with a sense of release. There, in the quiet moment under a blanket of stars, she and Matteo exchanged a gentle glance, their bond deepened by the complexities of history and love. With deep breaths and a kiss shared under that starlit canvas, they felt the weight of past struggles dissipate, transforming into a freedom that allowed for new possibilities. Under those watchful constellations, both Isabella and Matteo embraced their journey together, a path now woven more directly into the fabric of family, hope, and love that would thrive amidst the embrace of the mountains. And in that promise, they held each other closer, the warmth of their union casting off any darkness. Together they knew they could shape the life they had always dreamed of. The aftermath of Isabella's family visit draped their lives in warmth and acceptance, but an undercurrent of anxiety coursed through her veins. The familiar calm of their homestead was set against the horizon of uncertainty, the kind that could crack the foundation of all they had built, if not carefully tended. One crisp morning, Isabella stood over the stove, the rich aroma of coffee filling the air as she flipped flapjacks. The sun cast long shadows across the table set for breakfast, where Matteo and their son Daniel laughed and played with the blocks strewn before them. Laughter was a balm to her soul, yet it was interrupted by the sound of distant horse hooves echoing along the trail. "Do you hear that?" Isabella asked, her heart quickening. A sense of foreboding tightened its grip. Matteo glanced toward the window, his brow furrowing. "I don't like the sound of this either. Let's see who it is." The moment the horse and rider came into view, Isabella felt a chill run down her spine. It was a man she did not recognize, yet the air around him seemed to bristle with authority. As he approached, the unease escalated, and the laughter from the table faded. "Is this the Ashwood residence?" he called out, dismounting confidently. "It is." Matteo stepped forward, positioning himself protectively beside Isabella. "I'm Bart Sullivan, the new tax collector for the territory," the man announced, his tone no nonsense, with an edge that sent a shiver down Isabella's spine. "I'm here to discuss your property." Isabella's heart sank as dread washed over her. "What about our property?" she asked, the question barely escaping her lips. "There are claims against your ownership," Sullivan replied, his eyes scanning their homestead as if trying to measure its worth. "Your previous neighbor, Thomas Green, has raised concerns about debts owed, claiming he still holds rights to this land." Isabella's chest tightened, her fists clenching at the mention of Green, whose shadow still loomed over her past. "Those claims were settled long ago," Matteo interjected, anger rising in his voice, protective instincts flaring. "We have documentation to prove it." "Documentation won't mean much if the records are not verified," Sullivan retorted coolly, the condescension in his voice hardening Isabella's resolve. "I'll need to investigate further. If I find there's any discrepancy, you may be facing serious repercussions." Panic rippled through Isabella, but she forced herself to stand tall, determination igniting within. "This is our home. We've built a life here." "That's not my concern," Sullivan interrupted, gaze steely. "If the ownership is in question, there are ways to resolve disputes. I'll be inspecting your records to determine the property's rightful owners." Matteo's jaw tightened as he regarded Sullivan sternly. "We have every right to be here. We settled everything with Green, and if he's trying to reforge old chains, we'll fight this." "Good. You'll need that spirit for what lies ahead," Sullivan replied, mounting his horse with a curt nod. "Prepare for my visit tomorrow." The door closed behind Sullivan with an ominous finality, leaving Isabella feeling the walls of their home close in. "What if he finds something, anything to use against us?" she whispered, dread taking root. Matteo wrapped an arm around her, warmth trickling back into her frozen heart. "We will not allow him to take this from us. We'll gather everything we need for proof. We are strong together, and we will face this challenge head-on." Over the next few days, both found themselves lost in a whirlwind of preparation, digging through past records, receipts, and letters. Every document felt heavy, burdened with the weight of their struggle to claim their place. Isabella's nerves were frayed, the unease a constant companion shadowing her thoughts. One evening, exhaustion overtook her, the quiet of the night amplifying her racing thoughts. She turned to Matteo, her voice low and unsteady. "What if Sullivan finds something? What will we do then?" Matteo looked at her, resolve flickering in his eyes. "We'll confront and challenge him together. We will remind him that our claim is built on hard work and honesty." The next day brought the sun rising with a brilliance that felt dissonant against the storm the couple faced. Sullivan arrived punctually, his presence cutting the vibrancy of the morning short. Isabella's heart raced as he entered the cabin, the air thick with tension. "I'll need full access to all your records and financial documents," Sullivan said briskly, his eyes glinting with the opportunity to scrutinize every paper. Matteo laid out the documents they had gathered, placing them in front of Sullivan as if they were fragile offerings. "We've prepared everything you need. You'll find that we have settled all claims fairly." As Sullivan began leafing through the papers, he paused, raising an eyebrow at a particular receipt. "Prove this payment was made." It was submitted to the county, and our ownership was confirmed, Matteo replied, his voice clipped. Sullivan observed them carefully, the corners of his lips twitching into a slight smirk. Everything looks awfully fortuitous. I'll need time to verify this. Could be weeks, he stated, leaning back as if enjoying their discomfort. Do what you must. We're ready to stand by our rights, Isabella asserted, her voice trembling with determination. As days turned into weeks, Sullivan's presence loomed over their lives like a dark cloud that threatened rain. He would return intermittently, draining their spirits with more questions, digging deeper into their financial history. Each encounter felt like a trial, Isabella's resolve shaken but never broken. You have to understand, Sullivan said one afternoon, skepticism etched into his voice as he leafed through another sheaf of papers. People usually have regrets when trying to erase the past. Your claims need rigorous vetting. We are not those people, Matteo replied, stepping forward, confidence radiating from him. Isabella has built this home. It is filled with our dreams, and no one can take that away from us. With every visit, it became clearer to Isabella that Sullivan was determined to chip away at their foundation, trying to exploit any crack for his own gain. His incessant questioning was an affront that the couple was forced to reckon with. Finally, during one of Sullivan's inspections, the tension reached its peak. I'll be here another week to finalize my findings, he stated, withdrawing a paper from his pocket. You are not going to find any discrepancies, Isabella declared, her heart pounding. This land belongs to us, and we will defend our right to it. Sullivan paused, curiously assessing her newfound confidence. This kind of fire is admirable. Just remember that fire can burn the wrong things down too, if inconsistencies surface. But Isabella refused to let the threat render her silent. They won't, Mr. Sullivan. You can question us until the sun goes down, but your intimidation tactics will not work on us. He regarded her with an unsettling grin. Very well, Miss Ashwood. I look forward to seeing how this unfolds. The days passed slowly, each moment weighed down by uncertainty. Yet with Matteo by her side, Isabella felt an ember of strength flicker to life within her. We have to keep fighting, she insisted through the long nights, piecing together a defense against Sullivan's relentless inquiries. Always, Matteo reaffirmed, his gaze steady as he supported her. Together, we'll confront whatever shadows come our way. As the inspection drew closer to an end, Isabella fought to quell the fear that threatened to engulf her. She stepped outside one morning, the sun bathing her in its light. Noticing the mountain peaks, she took a deep breath, gathering her courage once more. They had built this home, sealing their love and dreams into the very earth beneath their feet. No amount of intimidation could convince her otherwise. Tomorrow, she said softly, holding Matteo's hand tightly, we'll face whatever comes with unwavering resolve. And as the day gave way to night, Isabella held firm to that promise, knowing that love and strength had the power to rewrite any story, rising beyond the shadows of doubt and embracing the light of hope that awaited them on the horizon. The sun rose with an unsettling brilliance, saturating the landscape in golden light as Isabella prepared for the confrontation that awaited her and Matteo. Today was the day their future hung in the balance, and as she stood at the window, she could feel the tension coiling within her. Matteo entered the room, his presence a warm comfort against her swirling thoughts. Isabella, remember, we are in this together, he said gently, his voice steady and reassuring. No matter what the tax collector throws our way, we will face it head on. I won't back down, she affirmed, her heart pounding with a blend of fear and determination. We've built a life here, and I refuse to let anyone take that from us. As they stepped outside to wait for Sullivan, anxiety coated the air around them. The whispers of the wind seemed to echo their thoughts, a reminder of the fights they had already endured to earn their place in these mountains. When Sullivan arrived, he carried an air of authority that set Isabella on edge. Good morning, he greeted, dismounting with an air of confidence. I'm here to discuss my findings. Isabella met his gaze squarely. We're prepared for whatever you have to say, she replied, channeling all her anxiety into firm resolve. Good, he said with a sly smile, flipping through his papers. I've done a thorough investigation, and what I've found raises significant concerns. What concerns? Matteo cut in, barely containing his frustration. Your claims to this land. Sullivan's tone dripped with disdain as he continued. They are lacking. According to county records, the previous owner had unresolved debts tied to this property. That means you may not hold rightful claim. Isabella felt a mix of disbelief and fury bubble within her. That's impossible. We settled everything before moving here. You have no right to question our ownership. Sullivan leaned closer, enjoying the discomfort in her expression. The law is the law. I suggest you tread carefully. You may think you've built something solid here, but records often reveal cracks. Matteo stepped forward, his anger boiling to the surface. We will not let you intimidate us. We've done everything by the book, and we stand by that. Isabella could feel Matteo's strength bolstering her resolve as she chimed in. If you're suggesting we back down, Sullivan, you're mistaken. We will fight for our home and our rights. Sullivan's expression hardened as their joint determination flickered through the air like a charged current. If you choose to contest my findings, then prepare for a lengthy battle, he warned, his voice low and sinister. I hope you understand the implications of challenging the law. We understand, Matteo replied, unwavering. We will not shy away from the fight. Our home is at stake. We have every reason to stand by what is right. Sullivan surveyed them, appearing momentarily surprised by their defiance. Very well, he stated, eyes narrowing in thought. You've made your choice clear, but in this, you will need allies. The weight of Sullivan's words hung heavily between them. They needed to gather support from their neighbors, from anyone who would vouch for their integrity and the rightful claim to their land. Tomorrow we reach out to our friends and fellow community members, Isabella asserted, her voice carrying a sense of urgency. They've seen the work we've done. They can back us up. Sullivan took a step back, an amused smirk creeping onto his face. Good luck, he said, a subtle warning dancing in his tone. You'll need it. After he left, Isabella and Matteo exchanged glances filled with determination and fierceness. This was not merely a fight for land. It was about justice, their home, and the legacy they hoped to build. Let's start preparing for our rally, Matteo suggested, sparking energy in Isabella's heart. We'll collect testimonials, get statements from other families that Green has wronged. They'll stand with us. As twilight draped its cloak over the land, Isabella felt hope unfurl within her, a quiet warmth rising. All those years they had fought to build a future together were about to be tested, but she was prepared. This was their moment to rally strength from the community that had always embraced them. That night, side by side, they made plans to reach out, their resolve intensifying with each word spoken. Together they would forge bonds and gather courage. Today was merely a new chapter in their journey. And as the stars twinkled above them, Isabella felt a thrill of clarity. She would embrace this challenge. They would protect their home, fight for justice, and triumph in reclaiming their rightful place among the mountains they called home. With newfound vigor, they prepared for the battle ahead, hearts intertwined with hope and fearlessness.